You know what we do here? We talk about life, and I want you to call me. Let me give you the number here. We have the best callers in the world. Have I told you guys that lately? I mean, I know I tell you that, but I just want to tell you that again because it just is true. You guys are like, here's what I love about our audience. You're like, everybody's like into getting better. You're into the process. You're looking at yourselves and you're growing. That's cool. And so our callers make the whole thing work because they give us sort of the chessboard to look at life, and whatever the play is that they're making on that chessboard, we can usually identify with it in some way. Might not have that exact same play, but you got a lot of the feelings that are involved. You know what rejection feels like. You know what not being paid attention to feels like. You know what trying to get somebody who's not taking responsibility for their lives to get responsible feels like. You know what being abandoned feels like. We can all identify with different stuff. And so thank you to the callers who make that possible. Here's the number: 844-940-2774. 844-940-2774. 844-940-2774 to get on the program and to join us. And for the rest of you who don't call, but you listen and you hang out on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram together, I just love how you guys are like supporting each other and sharing your thoughts, and everybody learns when we build a community. So, way to go with that. All righty. As usual, we take an email question from one of our boundaries.me subscribers. And here's one I think that here's an example of you may not have ever had this circumstance, but I think the answer I'm going to give might be your answer for a different circumstance. And here's the question: Dr. Cloud, my wife, who is from another country, has struggled to develop a close, satisfying relationship with another woman in the 17 years she's lived in the States. In other words, here a long time without a really close friend. Can you share some good relationship building skills that might be helpful to her situation? Thank you for your input. Well, first of all, I'm just going to sort of, since I don't know, I'm going to make up a set of facts. Okay. I'm going to make up a set of facts that there's nothing really clinical that would be, really preventing her from being able to do this, even if it were available. Okay. Now, if that's the case, obviously she needs to go see a good psychiatrist or psychologist to help whatever that is. But let's just say that, she's kind of a normal person like the rest of us, and something's made it difficult here about being in another culture, maybe the language, maybe where you live. I don't know what's caused it. But here's what I was going to tell you that everybody can relate to. All right. There are basically, sort of, mostly, pretty much two ways of doing something. One is we get off the couch and we go do it. Meaning, when we get off the couch and go apply energy to something, we invest ourselves, we take some steps, we go out and do some things that's just kind of normal. All right. Let's say you're single and you want to, get some dates. Now, what do? Well, you go out into the world and you find dates, right? You go to parties and mixers and get on dating sites or whatever it is, and you just find them. Or let's say you're trying to build community and you meet people at work and they introduce you to another person, or you go to church and you meet this person, and then you're at your bowling alley, and I mean, just kind of the course of life. You meet people, you build things, and that's just the way life works, unless it's not working. So, what do we do when just getting off the couch and going and doing something doesn't work? Well, then we flip it. Okay. Here's what I mean by that. The first way I said is you go out and make it happen. But if that's not working, and for whatever reason you're not able to make it happen, then flip it. Find where somebody else has made it happen for you, and then go join it. All right. So if I'm having trouble making connections with people, then I need to figure out, where has somebody already set up a circle of connections that I can go join? See, that way I don't have to build it. So, for example, let's say she calls a bunch of good therapists and they find a good therapy group. That'd be a great place to start in making meaningful connections with people. Now, what happens is, from that, you build skills and you overcome blocks and you get ideas. And then kind of the other part begins to happen. But a lot of times we need to join a program or join a class or join a structure or join whatever it is. There are some people that wake up in the morning, get off the couch and say, I want to go get in shape and I want to go work out. And they just go do it. There are other people that try that and fail over and over and over again. So what do? They find somewhere where that's already happening and they go join it. They get a trainer. They get a workout class. They go to, some class at the gym, whatever it is. So if you can't produce it, let somebody else produce it and you go there where they're providing it. So I would suggest start with therapy. Start with a therapy group. Go to a recovery group. Go to Celebrate Recovery. Call all the churches in your town and say, where are some support groups that are already structured and already meeting that you can go join? Okay. That's a good way to think about anything. Okay. If you want to grow in some area of your life and you're not able to produce that path of growth, somebody's already produced it. They probably hung out a shingle. They're probably advertising that they offer it. So just go join it. And if we do that in the areas where we need to grow, then we can really grow because it doesn't depend on us. See, if I want to solve a problem in my life and I'm going to need help to solve that problem, I can't produce the help and solve the problem. I need to find the help that already exists. So you can't be your own doctor. You can't be your own whatever. Go find it where it already exists. And that way she's not just lost in this vacuum of trying to, make things occur. All righty. Well, thank you for that call or that uh, question, because it's just such a common thing that we just can't do what we can't do. But somebody's done it. So let's go join it. I can't fix a car. Some people get off the couch to go fix their car. I wouldn't even know where to start, but I can take my car to a mechanic, right? That works. Okay, let's go to the phones. Let me get the number out again, 844-940-2774. Excuse me, 844-940-2774 is our number. We still have a line open that you can call us. And we're going to go to the phones now. First of all, let me make an announcement. If you are struggling from anxiety or you know somebody that is, we're going to have a special event that you can sign up for, a 2-hour anxiety seminar on what causes it, how do we overcome it, what are the paths you can take, what kind of anxiety do you have, what are the different answers to that. Everything about anxiety that I can give you in 2 hours, I'm going to give you. So join us here on December the 9th for the recovering from, being victorious of, I don't know what the title is, but it's our event on how you overcome anxiety. December 9th, right here. You can sign up by going to boundaries.me/anxiety. Boundaries.me/anxiety to be at that event. Now, if you can't make it in those 2 hours, that's okay. Just sign up for the event as if you were going to be there, and then you can stream it afterwards. You're free to do that for a while. Okay, boundaries.me/anxiety. Let's go to the phones. Mary, who's our first international caller of the day, calling us from BC. has a question about her daughter. Mary, welcome to the program.
Hello, Dr. Cloud. It's wonderful to be able to speak with you right now.
Well, it's good to talk to you.
Can you hear me all right? Oh, good,
I can
great.
hear you
I have a
perfectly.
question. Perfect. My concern is about my 23-year-old daughter. I said no to her, and I can't even remember the last time I said no. But my mistake was I should have said no right from the start. And the thing was, I said yes, and then I said no afterwards. That as she wanted to borrow my car to go hiking, and I just had it detailed. And in the middle of the night, I had visions of her driving down this muddy, rocky road, and with the dogs in the car, and it just upset me. So I sent her a message in the middle of the night and said no. And
How did you
wouldn't
word the
talk to me
message?
for.
How did you word
How
it?
did I word it?
Yeah, did you
I would
just
have
send a
to look.
message
I would
that
have
says
to look.
no?
No, I didn't. No, I apologized for the late decision. I did tell her that I'd spent over $200 getting my car cleaned and detailed, and I should have said no from the start, but I was feeling more upset about it, and yeah.
Good.
So she didn't talk to me for 2 days. Now there's a little bit of something there. She just has told me very clearly she doesn't want to go there. She just says, "Don't worry, Mom, I'll never ask you again." And she went and bought herself a new car. Can you believe that? She went and traded her car in and bought the same one that I have, a RAV4.
Well, so what's your problem? She solved it.
Yeah, she did, but now there's this wedge between us, and she avoids me and doesn't give me eye contact. She's not totally ice, but
is she living with you?
Yes, she is.
And how long ago was this car incident?
Oh, not that long ago, maybe 2 weeks ago.
But she's been like stonewalling you for 2 weeks?
Well, like I said, I guess you could say that. I don't know. It depends on what you mean by stonewalling. She does communicate
I don't
when
care what word you
necessary.
use. You said she's kind of like not. I don't know the word you use. I can't remember. But you said she's really not responsive, and she's kind of. You can tell something's wrong.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. She doesn't want to give me eye contact, and she
so
doesn't.
is this a pattern? She's 23 years old. She's been doing this for a long time, or is this where did this come from?
Well, I think she was going out with a boyfriend for 3 years, and it was pretty serious, getting pretty serious, and then out of the blue he just cut it off, and she's been in a lot of pain ever since. And she was sharing her feelings and that with me and talking to me about that. But now she's not. She just doesn't want to even go there. Anything that's uncomfortable to talk about, she doesn't want to talk about it. Yeah.
But other than the boyfriend issue, I mean, in general, just kind of what she does. She doesn't get her way, and then she says, "Fine, I'll never ask you for anything again, and I won't talk to you." Is that kind of like a pattern over life for her? Is this like just a weird occurrence?
Well, I guess it was more unusual that she was sharing with me than it is that she's not talking to me. She does have very different opinions about a lot of things that I do. If I like something, she tends not to like it. But
we have different opinions. I'm trying to ask a very specific question here. There are people that just respond in dysfunctional ways, and it tends to be it tends to be a long-standing kind of issue. You know that if you say no to so and so, you're going to get the silent treatment, or you're going to get punished, or they're going to withdraw. That's just kind of like the way they are. Versus somebody we have normal relationships with, and all of a sudden there's this one incident that's weird. Which one is she?
Oh, I guess maybe it is more of a pattern. I hadn't really ever
Okay.
thought of it that way.
Well, that's what I wanted to know. Okay. So, have you ever talked to her about this pattern? Have you ever talked to why would you get upset? Why don't you talk to me? Why do you just, not make eye contact and you give me the silent treatment? Why do you do that?
Well, I think if I were to do that,
No, have you done that? I
that
said.
she would.
Have you
Have I
addressed the
done that?
behavior?
Not really. No.
Not really. Okay.
Well,
So
I
23
did
years.
once. I did once.
Once? When was that?
Yeah.
When
What's that?
when did you do it? When was that one time that you brought up her behavior to her?
Well, I guess just recently after she did this. Like, why are you
Okay,
talking to
but
me?
never before in the 23 years have we brought up this pattern.
No, I'm always looking for ways to connect with her, and I always
kind of
feel
appease
that
her.
she's avoiding me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like that she's kind of learned that this is kind of what works, right?
Oh.
And she kind of
Great.
gets appeased. And so one thing that you could do is
Mm-hmm.
for the first time you could address it and say, I want to talk to you about something. I like our relationship. I like talking to you. I like spending time with you. But sometimes it gets kind of hard because if I do something that it seems like you don't like, then you stop talking to me. You don't really tell me about it. It's hard to resolve it. So I walk around for a couple of weeks and you're kind of like in this, can you, why, can we do something different than that? Why do you do that? Am I hard to talk to? What if you just opened it up and ask about the problem?
Actually, that's a good idea.
That might be a good idea.
That's a great idea.
It's a great idea. All right.
Oh my
I'm gonna
goodness.
leave you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
leave you with that idea. Your other alternative is you can just ignore it, let her freeze herself out. A lot of times the silent treatment, what you do is just ignore it and not give into it. And then the manipulation isn't sucking you in anymore. So then they end up coming around. But I would either address it or ignore it. But I certainly wouldn't continue to placate it. Because when we give in to people's manipulations, it's like a dog. If you want them to do something more, you give them a treat, right? That's standard,
Right.
operant conditioning. So she's giving you the silent treatment and she gets more placating and more care from you, really. Well, then, whatever you reward, you're going to get more of. Whatever you tax, you're going to get less of. So tax her. when when my when my girls were growing up, when they hit that age, and I got to go after this, but I'll share this with you. When the girls got to that age, they were probably what, I don't know, 6 or 7, 8 years old, maybe. Or they kind of start, getting heavy into the blame and excuses and all of that. I forget what movie it was. Maybe, I don't know, one of those movies where that you put the L on your forehead. That's loser. They'll go loser like that. And so we had a family signal. I said, all right, we're going to start to do a new deal here. Losers blame other people. They don't take responsibility. They give excuses and they blame other people. All right. So from now on, anybody that blames somebody else when you get corrected or you give an excuse, everybody look at them and go, loser, because that's what losers do. Anybody that takes responsibility and says, oh, you're right, I'm sorry, I'll do better than that, then we're going to hold up the winner sign. We put up the W. And we did that for a while. Another thing I did was when they would blame or excuse, I would fine them. You owe me $1. I'm going to write you a ticket, a blaming ticket. And so the point is, you don't reward this stuff. If you reward it, you're going to get more of it. Just the way it is. You tax it, you get less of it. Sort of the way it works. Okay, good old Psych 101, operant conditioning. Whatever you reward, you get more of. All right, let's go back to the phones. Bryna, who's calling us from the great state of California, where I live. How are you? Welcome to the program. Is it Bryna or Brina? And are you there? Well, we might have lost her.
Oh, I think you can hear me now.
Oh, I can hear you. Is it Brina or Bryna?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
It's Brina, long E.
Brina.
Yep.
Welcome to the show. How can I help you?
So I find myself in a bit of a predicament. About 8 weeks ago, I had a bit of an epiphany where I discovered I was codependent, which was a bit shocking. And so the last 6 weeks, my husband and I have been separated, which has been hard. And I find myself.
Let me get the timeline here. You had an epiphany that you were codependent 8 weeks ago, and then 2 weeks later, you guys got separated?
Yes, because when we sat down to talk about it, I wanted a short-term separation where he could. The reason why we separated were his lack of taking responsibility and me being codependent, kind of making it so he didn't suffer any of the consequences relative to employment. So being employed, we've been together for 24 years. So just not contributing to the household financially over the course of a long period of time. I discovered what I felt was pretty significant emotional abuse happening with my kids that I needed to address. And there was some drug use that I'd been tolerating that he knew I was not okay with, but was
he trying to work?
So eventually we got to the point where he opened his own business where he would tattoo, but it was really a drain on our finances. And he'd done it for several years, but it kept him busy, which was good, but really it was a drain on our finances. So it was tough.
So, but he never got a job. Never got a job and brought home a paycheck and put it in the cookie jar with the family money.
So over the years, he would go through these cycles where he would get a job, get excited, we would rearrange to accommodate the new job, and then eventually something would happen and the job would go away, whether he quit or he was let go. And then we're kind of back to square one. And then it happened several times. So there was definitely a pattern.
Okay.
But I kind of felt like eventually he would find his calling and figure it out. And I thought that the tattooing was going to be it. And like I said, it kept him busy, which was good. But financially, it was just not contributing. The biggest issue was that in some key conversations I had with my older children, 3 of them are teenagers, I found out that stuff was happening when I wasn't around that was just not healthy. And he had dealt with drug and alcohol addiction, so he was clean of like any type of hard drugs or prescription medication or alcohol, but he had never stopped smoking marijuana, which that's
the unhealthy stuff you were talking about that would happen?
Yeah, so he was doing that, and then he was just some really not good stuff that I wasn't comfortable with my boys. So at that point, I said, I'd like to take 30 days. Can you move out?
Wait a minute. Hang on a second. Not good stuff that you weren't comfortable with. Are you meaning anything like physically, sexually abusive kinds of things?
No, verbal. More like threatening, name calling, talking
just
about
like
marijuana like it was a really good thing.
Okay. All right. I got it.
You know,
So yeah, just not a good influence. So what, and also, I mean, you don't want to name call kids. That's not good. So, so what's the question?
no,
You found
and
out
it's
you're
something what we
codependent.
had.
You
So my question,
separated 8 weeks or 6 weeks ago. So what's
right?
the question?
So it was supposed to be short term. I was really hoping that his moving out, he had a significant amount of unemployment money because of the pandemic pay. That I thought that he would move out and then be like, oh, okay, I want to make changes, which to some degree he did. He did get a job, but he's
Oh,
gotten like 2 jobs since he's moved out, which is to me, again, that pattern. He says that he wants to treat the kids better, and he's given up marijuana, but he doesn't acknowledge that anything has ever been a problem. So I feel like we're in this circular conversation where he's saying, hey, look, I've done all the things you've asked me to do, but I'm saying, but I need you to acknowledge that there's a problem, and we're just in this circular conversation to the point where I disengage. And then he basically says, hey, you're not talking to me anymore, so how are we going to reconcile?
okay.
And then the ball
So
seems to be back in my court. So I just don't,
yeah,
I don't
well,
know how to re-engage in a way that's,
it kind of is in your court in that I think you it's probably time for you to be very specific about what you want him to do. So sometimes people will
yeah.
separate and they'll think, well, if I separate, then they'll get it, or they'll wake up, or
Mm-hmm.
at least I'm not around anymore, so it puts an end to the pain. But a separation should be something that's like in the service of things getting better. And the only way things are going to get better is if we have some agreed upon expectations. And those
Mm-hmm.
expectations should be like stepping stones in a path, to get to a certain place. So if you walk out of a house in the woods and there's stepping stones, and the stepping stones lead to, the picnic table, right? There's a destination, as opposed to we walk out of the house and there's nothing out there, we're just going to walk. And so I would want you to get specific about, what do you want him to do? When do you decide I want you back in when A, B, and C and D have happened? And I would get very specific about that. And I think that at least a couple of those ought to be his involvement in some sort of a help scenario that would help him,
Mm-hmm.
get his life on track. Like he probably needs he needs some kind of good counselor. He needs some sort of employment coach, or, whatever the equivalent of that would be, a mentor, somebody that would sit down and help him look at his finances, get on a budget, figure out what he needs, what does he need to do to get to where he needs. He's kind of got no structure and no plan in his life. And I think that's got to be in the mix somewhere as well. So if y'all get mutually, say, when he says, I've done everything, say, well, why don't we just list what it is that would make me feel hope and like it's good to take the next step and try this together again. And you just agree upon what those expectations are. How about that?
So how much of figuring that out is my responsibility, though?
Well,
So he's kind of
100%.
just camped out
Wait a
at a
minute.
hotel.
Well, 100% of what you want would be your responsibility, right?
Okay.
100% of doing it, his part of it, would be his responsibility. And then there's probably
Hmm.
some fuzzy land in there that would be his responsibility as well. For example, if you say, look, I'm going to have hope if you go to counseling or join a support group, or go to NA
Mm-hmm.
or something. That's one thing that would give me hope. See, your responsibility is naming what would give you hope. Then his responsibility maybe go find the group, or go find the therapist, go follow through on it. But I think we all
Got it.
have to tell somebody what we want from them, and then they get to figure out if they're going to do it or not. That's the way every relationship works. Is that more clear? All right.
Yeah. I just
go ahead.
I just wasn't sure how much he was supposed to figure, because part of the issue is that I tend to be the problem solver.
Yeah.
So I was withholding the problem solving. So.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, you don't want to do the kids' homework for them, but you can set the expectation that I want your homework done by 7 o'clock. And if you need help, here's the tutor's number, or you can call your teacher or come ask me or whatever. You do want him owning some responsibility in following through. But I think sometimes you do have to kind of make it clear, I want you sober. And here's how I'm going to know you're sober. If you get a sponsor and go to AA, for example, all right? Well, that's not doing his work for him. That's just saying what your requirements are.
Yeah. I don't know if it's unreasonable to expect him to acknowledge that it's a problem, because at this point he doesn't really want to do that. He says, "Oh, I'll stop doing it, but I think you're wrong." So
that wouldn't give me a lot of hope. I would tell him, I would say, generally speaking, if there's no problem to be solved, nobody solves a problem. So if you don't think you have a problem, which is a problem for me, if you don't think you have a problem, then I don't have a lot of hope in anything's changing. But I would say this, and I'll let you go after this. I would say, so that's fine. I understand you don't think it's a problem, but it is a problem for me. And so I would like for you to at least acknowledge that you can see how this is a problem for me and how it hurts me, and acknowledge that you care about that it hurts me, and then agree to do something about it. You can go that far. At least that shows an other orientation that, that he cares about you. So sounds like a good awakening, right? Now you guys just have to kind of follow through on adding some structure to it. So thank you for your call. I think a lot of people can identify with that. All righty. So let's go to Sarah, who's got a dating question. Sarah, welcome to the program. I think. Sarah?
Hello. Hi.
Sarah, you're our second Canadian caller today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to talk to you.
Good to talk to you.
I have
started
a
to sing that
question.
song, Sarah. Who wrote that song? Sarah. Is that Journey, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, tell me how I can help you. You have a dating question.
Yes, I am 30 years old. I've been trying to date since I was 25, and I'm just really not good at it. I end up ending the relationship really early. People tell me I'm too picky. I'm starting to think maybe I am.
Wait a minute. Stop. You've given me so much already. All right. First of all, you started when you were 25. Now, you didn't date at all until you were 25?
Oh, yes.
How come?
I was studying. I was also not really, well, I was a little bit scared of relationships, and I was battling with some addictions as well. So I did not start dating early in life.
You what? Say that last part again. You what?
I did not start dating early.
Okay.
I started dating later.
What were the addictions?
porn and yeah, all that comes with it. But I would say that also I was also not really comfortable with men because I just didn't have a good image of men. I was not abused, but I was just not comfortable with men in general. So
has that changed? Do you like men now?
well, I'm comfortable. I'm not, I would say that I think my fear came from the fact that the example of men that I had in front of me was not the type of men that I wanted to be with.
Oh, that's a good
So
awareness.
I just did not know. I did not know how to handle this. So I think I was just more focusing on myself and self-centered and not trying to interact with other type of men.
Yeah.
I didn't think that good men could exist. So yeah.
And so have you expanded that view? Have you gotten around some men that don't bite?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So
yeah, definitely. But it's just that every time I feel like every time there is a problem, it stops me right away. I'm trying to
what
get
would
to
be an
have some.
example? What would be an example? What's a problem that comes up and then you fire the guy?
Okay. Well, for example, I want to have a relationship where I can grow in faith. And so if I'm with a guy and, like the last time that I dated someone, I was not convinced. I didn't know if the guy was really, really grounded in his faith, but also like just to put the boundaries, it was complicated for me and him. And also, I think what really pushed me to block him was that he started making fun of like a silly joke about my weight, and I said, okay, enough. I'm done. I don't want to go with him. If you disrespect me like that, I'm not going to pull up with this. So to me, it sounds extreme, but that's what I did.
Well, it's not I don't think it's extreme to be bothered by it. What might be, and I think this relates to the whole big picture, is, as the more, and I don't know, are you looking at a screen right now? Can you see me? Or are you just on the phone?
Yeah.
You are. Okay. So see these two levels right here. So here's the amount of fear we have, and here's the amount of, let's call it, skills or abilities and strengths and security that we have. All right. Well, if we don't feel like that we can have good boundaries, confront somebody when they're hurting us, step up and, set limits and not be mistreated, if we feel kind of powerless, then we have a lot of fear. All right. Well, as we get stronger and stronger, then the fear begins to go down. And so that opens up a whole world, because we can enter into the world, because we know that if somebody's not nice, we can deal with it. Right. And so it sounds like you've made some amazing steps. I mean, you're really, you've come out of kind of being, kind of isolated and into addictions and this, that, and the other. And now you're out there and you're doing some stuff, right? This is all really, really good. But what I would work on, like really, really proactively, go to boundaries.me. There's courses on this, is learning to really develop those boundary setting skills and those being able to be assertive in a good way. And then when problems come up, you can address the problem, maybe without getting rid of a relationship, because you won't be as scared. And you might say, so I don't know if you thought that was funny, that comment about my weight, but I didn't like that. So don't do that anymore. And then you set that limit, and then maybe he goes, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that that would be hurtful. I'll never do that again. And then you've kind of like, you're developing skills. What I'm interested in here is not necessarily that guy. You know, he might be a clown for all I know, but I'm more interested in you working on the skills and developing more skills that would make you feel more safe. Because the more safe you feel, then the more opportunities to meet people that you'll be able to enter into. So that's one of the areas I would focus. And sometimes, like you're saying, you know, if you don't want to get hurt, a good way to not get hurt is to be really picky, right?
Yeah, but is that realistic? Because I don't think people are perfect, but that's where I have a hard time, because I'm like, I
I
know
know.
I started late, but I still want to do something good, but I'm like, I don't know where is I don't know how to gauge what is good, or I still have a hard time with it, because I have this, maybe I have this ideal of how I would like it to be, but then I know that reality is also different.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I'm just
that's true.
worried that I'm too.
Let me give you one way to think about it. And I would suggest I wrote a book called How to Get a Date Worth Keeping that's got a lot in there about the kind of, you know, character traits that are important. But I would want you to think in terms of um, sort of red lights, yellow lights to start with. There are some things about certain kind of people, and I would like you to get specific about this. These are non-starters. These are like permission to play things. You know, if a guy's addicted, if he's a liar, if he's unfaithful, if he's mean or domineering, or, you know, there's certain things. No, we're not even going to think about that. You're all, you know, just take that offer off the table. And then there's some things that kind of like, you know, you meet somebody, it's sort of yellow lights, but you're not really sure, and but you're not going to get hurt by them. But you go a little further to see, you know, kind of like, well, maybe they seem kind of shy and don't speak up, but then they get more comfortable, and now they're like more interactive. And in the yellow light, you know, thing, we kind of we're careful, we protect ourselves, but we we address it and kind of figure out sometimes yellow lights turn green, right? But sometimes they remain yellow, and that's when we go away either. That's like, you know, they're maybe not as Steve Arburn says, they they're not Mr. Right. How does he put it? They're not Mr. Right, but they're not Mr. Right now because it's still
Mm-hmm.
yellow. But then there's other things, and here's where I want you to look at the book. There's other things where no, they're not perfect, but there's a lot of good there to keep getting to know. And then you're going to expand kind of your range of I didn't know I like that, and I didn't know I like that, and that really bugs me. And you're in this process of just learning more. And I would like to see if it's, you know, if you can, if it's not too scary or hurtful to you in any way, to be kind of in that learning mode. You don't have to commit to anybody, but you can be in the process of just, you know, learning about men. Now, the other thing is, I do think you probably need some kind of healing experiences if you've had, because you said the men that you were around were hurtful in your life. And have you gone to therapy or found some sort of recovery program or any way to get over kind of what these bad people, how they hurt you?
No, I'm looking for it, but no, I haven't found anything
Okay.
yet.
Well, I would really suggest that. And I do some reading about overcoming kind of like, you know, and figuring out. I think you've got some you kind of got some corrective lenses that, you know, that's what happens if we grow up a certain way with certain kinds of people. Then we need to kind of go to the eye doctor a little bit and be able to spot like what's an okay guy and what isn't. And I would do some reading about that. You know, I just kind of study up on, you know, Safe People is a book that I wrote with John Townsend that kind of addresses some of these things. So um, I would just say the perfectionism and the pickiness probably is a way to protect yourself. And you're right. If you stay, uh, let's say you go out to eat and you get food poisoning, right? Well, one way not to get food poisoning is to not eat any, never go out again, right? But that's a little over picky. We're protecting ourselves so much that we're not able to even get good things. And that's kind of what it sounds like you got to look at. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah,
I
that's
love it that
exactly it.
I love it. I love it that you're in the path though. I love it that you're growing. I would commend you to continue. Check out my book, How to Get a Date Worth Keeping. If you go to boundaries.me, the course is on there. You can watch it on there. But I love the fact that that you're on a path, and one of the things I really think is important in our lives, and I want everybody to hear this, because um, Sarah's a great example of this, that what really matters is, what direction am I going in? Where am I headed? Now, Sarah's kind of a hero. She came from she didn't go into all of it, but situation where relationships were hurtful to her. Some men she was around were not good examples. And then she, you know, medicated herself, it sounds like, with some addictions, but relationships were kind of like not even an option because they're too scary. And then she says, I'm going to go on a different path. And so she goes in the path. First she gets sober, right? She deals with these addictions, and then she says, I'm going to enter into this relationship thing. And then she runs into some obstacles, and now she's addressing those obstacles. See, what I hear there is her life is going in this direction. Now she's headed in a different direction. All right. Who cares if you run across some speed bumps along the way? I mean, we all do that. You're going to go anywhere, you're going to drive to any vacation spot, you're going to hit some potholes. You're going to have to stop and get some gas. You might run out of food along the way. You might not even like who's riding with you. You need to throw them out of the car. Have pick a nicer friend to go with you on this journey. But all that's just part of it. I just want you guys going in the right direction. The right direction. A slow, steady journey in the same direction. You just keep going towards the light. You just keep going towards health. Doesn't really matter how fast you're going, as much as the fact that you are going. And that's what I hear from her. And I think that's really, really important. Okay, let's go back to the phones and talk to Marin, who's calling us from Arizona. Marin, welcome to the program.
Yeah, Marin.
Can
you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Oh, yep, I'm there. Can you hear me? Okay,
Yep.
great. Yeah, it's Marin.
Gotcha. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Pretty well. Tell me how I can help you.
So I have, for most of my life, dealt with OCD, and it's kind of come and gone, but it mostly presents itself as intrusive thoughts. And so on the outside, everything seems fine.
How old are you?
I'm 33.
33. And when did it start?
Mm-hmm. When I was a child, so.
When you were little?
Probably around 10, 11. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And intrusive thoughts, are they obsessional? Do you ruminate? You can't get off the loop, that kind of thing? Or is it just random intrusive thoughts?
Yep.
That's it?
I would say the former. So the rumination, can't get off the loop. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And do they have a theme to them? Is it like, it's a fear, something bad's going to happen, you worry about it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So definitely fear of bad things happening, or fear that I'm a bad person, things like that.
Can you give me an example of the top two?
So I think so fear of having like a thought that doesn't match with my values. So something that's inappropriate or thinking something bad. So I definitely a theme is like scrupulosity. So doing something that would displease God or something of that nature.
Not doing something, but just thinking of something.
Well, thinking of something or doing something. So both.
Okay. All right. Can you give me an example? You don't have to. I mean, you're on a radio show, so if it feels too, don't stay more anonymous, then it's okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of an example. I mean, I'm trying to think of a good example.
Something that would displease God.
I don't know. Can we? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can we skip this? Okay, we can skip this. When you called it OCD, has this been diagnosed by a clinician? Has it been treated?
Yeah, it has. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It has, and I guess a lot of the just traditional like talk therapy has not been super effective in dealing with it. So I was just curious if you had recommendations on best kind of therapies to deal with.
Yeah.
These types
So
of thoughts.
when you say how much talk therapy have you had? What kind of talk therapy was it like? Did it deal with like trauma you've had or growing up patterns, or was it more dealing with your thinking? What kind of talk therapy did you have?
Probably more dealing with thinking.
So just
some cognitive behavior
okay
therapy, things like that.
And all right, and you had a lot of that or a little of that?
I have had a little bit, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever had any medication?
I have taken medication.
Which one?
And it has helped to a point. I take a antidepressant.
An SSRI?
Yeah.
Okay, because that, some SSRIs can be really, really helpful with ruminating. Because they probably explained it to you. You've got some kind of overactive anxiety centers in your brain that have some chemistry to them, and that can be helpful. Let me give you I'm gonna give you a couple of general things that I want you to think about. And how debilitating is this? Is this something that goes on in your head, or does it interfere with your life?
It's mostly internal. So people around me pretty much have no idea because I'm able to go about my normal life, but it just causes, when it flares up, which I honestly hadn't dealt with it for many, many years. I hadn't been a big problem.
Oh, really?
But this year.
So yeah. What brought it along now? What woke it up?
That's a good question. I'm not totally sure. I'm sure that I had
any kind of loss
to do with like no kind of loss. I mean, other than loss of normal routine with
structure,
the pandemic, and yeah.
Is that when it started?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you tend to be kind of I don't mean this pejoratively, I mean it more as a personality style. Do you tend to be kind of unstructured and sort of,
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right. Is it difficult for you to be assertive with people when you have relationship conflicts and they hurt your feelings or anything?
Yeah, I probably mean that way.
Okay. Here's some thoughts. your question was, is there other ways of dealing with this?
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I want to give you hope, because the way you've described it, it doesn't get to debilitating stages. You're not doing lots of rituals where you can't perform in life, and the OCD is not at that level,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
But this ruminatory stuff can be it's just awful. It's terrible. So here's what happens. You've got, let's just call it, let's say you're at you're at Disney World, okay, and you're going over the pond where all the alligators are, right? And you're walking across the bridge, and these alligators start. I've seen a lot of alligators in Mississippi. I guess they have them at Disney World, but they come to the surface, and they're sort of swimming around, right? Well, that's kind of like the intrusive thought. So it comes in your head, right? Well, what that is, that's your brain. It's not your mind, and there's a difference. Your brain is a physical organ, and because of the anxiety and all of that, it just produces random thoughts. It's like alligators that just pop up. They have no meaning in reality. It's just a symptom of an overactive, this whole, fight or flight world that lives in your brain. It's biochemical in large part. So the alligator pops up. Now here's what happens. It tempts you to turn to it and then feed it to shut it up. So in other words, you'll go, oh, what if I offended that person? Or what if I crossed the line there, in some way and violated God's standard? Or what if? And that's kind of the alligator tempting you to feed it by engaging with that what if, and you start to think your way through it, right? And you think, well, I don't really think I did. I mean, it wasn't that bad. I mean, if I had no, they didn't see me. No, I don't think anybody was offended. And you're starting to go through this thing. You're trying to get to the end of this internal discussion. So the obsession will go, oh, yeah, you're right. I'll go back to sleep, right? That's the temptation. That's the temptation, to engage in it and to try to think your way to a conclusion. And that's what you do, I would bet. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So here's the deal. Trust me on this. You will never think your way out of an obsession. And the reason you won't. And the reason is it's not even thinking. It's let's just call it, they're physiologically produced thoughts that have nothing to do with real thinking. See, if we have a real problem and we think about it, we kind of resolve it, and then our brain lets go of it. But this isn't real thinking. This is sort of like a rapid pulse that's going on in your head. And so when you engage in it, the reason that your mind does this, it engages you in it to actually kind of try to resolve the anxiety. And then you start thinking about it, and then that attempt to resolve it, that becomes self-reinforcing. Sort of like if somebody's worried about an airplane, they don't get on the airplane, then the anxiety goes down for 30 seconds, but then it comes right back. That's why I said you'll never talk your way out of this. So every time you engage in it, what you're doing is you're kind of strengthening the alligator. All right?
Got it.
So let's never engage in it. Now, here's why you're going to go, oh, great, because that doesn't make it go away. You're exactly right. Okay? And here's what I want you to learn. Here's what I want you to learn. All right. I want you to listen to me right now. You listen to me? We're having a conversation.
I'm listening.
Are you listening?
Okay.
Now, can you hear that going on in the background right there?
I can, yeah.
And okay, so I'm going to keep talking to you while that's going on, and I'm not even going to pay any attention to it at all. And we're going to talk. What did you do? What did you have for lunch today? I'm gonna
Oh.
ignore it. See, I'm not going to
Uh-huh.
say. I'm not going to right in the middle of it go. Hold on a second, and turn to it and try to tell it to be quiet because it's not. Because my brain is going to
Mm-hmm.
keep producing it. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to turn from it. I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to ignore it and I'm going to talk to you and I'm going to get involved in being in the present. And then it's going to go away until I attend to it again. You follow that?
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Yeah,
You
yeah.
never win
That's
by engaging. Now, every time you ignore it and just keep doing what you're doing, you're going to get lost in whatever it is you're doing. See, I'm talking to you again. I don't even hear it. It's gone away. And so
uh-huh.
that's the trick to overcoming this. And what's going to happen is the more and more and more and more and more you ignore and ignore and engage. And I don't care if it's music in the background all day long, you just ignore it and you engage. That de-strengthens the neural pathways and the reinforcement schedule that's tied to this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing.
Yeah.
Secondly, I would like for you to see a good therapist who treats this if the other one didn't work. And you might look at
Mm-hmm.
some medication again. But here's the other thing. I would bet that in the pandemic, and that what an obsession does is it also adds structure, believe it or not. And we kind
Oh,
of if we have something to focus
interesting.
on, now we're structured. And so I would want
Oh, that's
you,
so interesting.
it does. That's what it does. So I want you to create a
Hmm.
schedule and create some structure in your life right now. I also want you to
Uh-huh.
work on being more assertive. That's your aggressive drive that ends up getting turned against you. Begin to have good boundaries, to work on your boundaries, okay? And and feel like you can be assertive in relationships and work on some of the structure. And then one more thing is I want you to work on your critical conscience. I think you've got a critical
Okay.
parent in your head. It's way,
That sounds right.
way too strict. Fire that person. Kick them out of there. And I
Uh-huh.
wish we had more time on this, but that's what I would. Those are things I would suggest. Therapy, maybe some medicine. Ignore it and engage. Ignore it and engage. Ignore it and engage. Get more structure in your life, and also work on some of this assertiveness stuff. And talk to your
Mm-hmm.
therapist about it. And I
Okay.
think those things could help.
All right. Well, thank you
All
so
right.
much. That does help a lot. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Look up a guy from UCLA named, he wrote a book called Brain Lock or Brain Freeze. Jeffrey Schwartz.
Okay.
Take a look at that book. I think it might help you. Okay. I
Okay. I'll take a look.
believe, thank you for your call. I do believe that we are out of time. I don't know how that happens. The show just races by way quicker than an election. How long is this election going to last? We ought to, it's sort of like a drinking game, right? How many shows can you have before the election ends? We don't know. But we do know there's a life to be lived before the election ends. And I want you living your life. I want you living it fully. And that's what this program's about. Let's all work together, take the next step, the next healthy step we need to take in life and your relationships. A couple of healthy steps that I would suggest for you. Go to boundaries.me. Go sign up, become a subscriber. People are loving it. They let us know they love it. There's lots of courses, sort of like the Netflix for personal growth in all these areas. And I've got a lot of courses up there. You can just go sign up by going to boundaries.me. And the other thing is, if you do suffer from anxiety, sort of like our last caller, it's an anxiety disorder. There's a lot of anxiety disorders. There's general anxiety they feel. There's panic. There's ruminations. There's PTSD. There's avoidance. There's phobias. Stress. If you suffer from anxiety, we're having a special event, December 9th, 2 hours live, right here, you and me, talking about anxiety, what causes it, what can you do about it, what are the available pathways and self-help things and treatment options and all of that. How to get over anxiety, December 9th. Sign up by going to boundaries.me/anxiety. Boundaries.me/anxiety. And if you sign up for it and you can't be there during the live event, doesn't matter. You can stream it afterwards. It'll be available to you and you can watch it that way. Okay. All righty, guys. Tomorrow, we're around. I think kind of, I've got a weird schedule this week. Let me just make sure. I think it's going to be roughly the same time that we have been doing, late in the afternoon here. And yeah, that's kind of what I think it's going to look like tomorrow. So probably about the same time. So put your slippers on, put your feet up, and join in late in the afternoon and go on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and talk to everybody. And we're just going to have a good old time. Tomorrow, I'll see you at the same time, probably. All right. If not, we'll post it and we'll let you know. Okay. Love you guys.